Welcome back to part 2 of my lightsaber buying guide. Now, if you didn't see part 1, I'll put a link in the description to this video, but you should probably go check that one out first. Part 1 dealt with a general intro to buying lightsabers and the idea of canon sabers versus non-canon sabers and features, just the general sort of features that you find in a lightsaber. This video, we're going to talk about installation and customizability. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, installations on sabers also carry a price tag with them. I'll get to price as one of the last items in this because everything that we talk about kind of has an impact on it. But a basic installation is something like in this stunt saber. All right, if I open this thing up, here I have a battery and a sled attached to wires, attached to a button, attached to an LED. This is a basic installation. It's designed to work. It's designed to be easy to fix. It's designed to be easy to install. Right? It also costs a lot less. So basic installations are the no frills option. Right? After basic installations, we have functional installations. Now, functional installations are more durable. In a lot of basic installations like that, the battery might wobble around a little bit, the battery casing might break. Sometimes the wires might come loose because you're pulling it in and out quite often. A functional install is something like what we see in this Bendu Armory saber here. Okay, this is nylon. This holds the board. There's the battery. This is a brass counterweight, so this is very functional. But this installation is designed to be more durable and to keep things in place a little bit better. It carries with it an increased cost. All right. Functional installations are the most common type. Here in this LGT saber, you can see we've got a very similar thing. This is just plastic in this case, but here's the battery, here's the board, here's the speaker, all sort of kept in place. Right. The final level that we have are premium installations. Now, premium installations are not designed just to work or just to keep everything in place and be functional. Premium installations are designed to look pretty as well. Premium installations can have etched internal parts. They can have crystals inside so that when you open it up, it looks like a lightsaber is supposed to look inside. Premium installations come from places like Goth Chassis make some of the most intricate ones. There are people who make them out of tiny little pieces of metal. You can spend thousands of dollars on a premium installation that is in and of itself a work of art inside the saber. Okay, the thing about it is that the basic installations are designed for basic use. The functional installations are designed to make that saber more functional, more durable, to hold up for things like dueling. The premium installations are often works of art that are designed more for display or collectors. Right? Each level, again, carries with it a different price tag, so you have to decide, do I want this thing to just work? Do I want this thing to work reliably in the long run? Or do I want this thing to look awesome? And there's a lot of give and take. You sacrifice form for function quite frequently in the lightsaber world. All right, there's different levels of customizability when it comes to a saber. I'm going to start with the most customizable. The most customizable option that's out there right now is a full-on chassis swap. Now, Bendu Armory does this. If I want a different Bendu Armory sleeve, I take this sleeve, I take the chassis out of it, I pop this chassis into a completely different saber, and I end up with something that looks altogether different. So these are both the same hilt design. This is their obsidian design, but here it is in copper. Here it is in red. If I decide that I want to go from copper to red, I pop it out of one, pop it into the other, screw it in, and I've swapped the chassis. Now, Bendu Armory makes use of this. LGT also makes use of this. LGT chassis, you can actually buy the chassis separately, but LGT chassis are a 1-inch inner diameter. secured in with screws. The LED is in there, and the LED or the NeoPixel setup is in there already. All I do is unscrew these two screws and slide it out, and I can slide this into any other LGT Saber. Well, not necessarily any other, but most other LGT Sabers, and it's going to work. Right, so that's about as customizable as it gets. You take a saber gut, you take the saber guts out of one saber and you pop it in another, and you've got a completely different saber. Okay, one step lower than that, we have shrouds, shrouds or sleeves. All right, now this is something like what you have with a Kyber light. Kyber light's core model is a tube. On top of that tube, you put shrouds and different emitters. Okay, but basically you make the saber look entirely different by sliding parts onto and off of the solid saber tube. Now this is a little bit different from the swappable chassis insofar as it's the actual basic saber that you're just adding onto or embellishing. Okay, this isn't a Kyber light, but you can see a shroud here. This right here sits on top of the saber, secured in by these screws. And if I unscrew these screws, I can slide it off and slide another one on just like it. All right, the next level down on customizability is standard threaded parts. Now there are different versions of this. Ultra Sabers, for instance, has what they call MHS. So an Ultra saber or any MHS saber, like this one, for instance, is composed of parts that I can remove and put on. So I can buy MHS pommels in a lot of different formats, and any MHS pommel that I get, I can unthread it from this saber, thread it onto another saber, and it works. MHS stands for Modular Hilt System. Okay, Saberforge has a very similar concept. They have ASP, or Adaptive Saber Parts. LGT has a similar concept. They have VHC, or Variable Hilt Configuration. Pretty much nobody's tool or nobody's thread size works on anybody else's saber. There are a few exceptions. Kyber light pommels are part of or work with ASP sabers. But for the most part, you're stuck sort of in-house. Like any LGT part that I buy from LGT, I can put onto another lightsaber and customize it up. So customizable parts is the next level down of customizability. Now, most times parts from the same manufacturer are interchangeable from saber to saber, but that's not always the case. For instance, here in this Kyber's saber, I can unscrew this top right here, and it's the same thread size as the emitters on their other sabers. But, for instance, this saber right here, if I unscrew the top of this is a male threaded emitter. This is a female threaded emitter. So while I can actually screw these two emitters together, I can't use this emitter on the saber that this one was on, or this one on the saber that this one was on. All right, so you can switch, or you can customize within a brand, or you can customize, or some brands have a lot of different options so that you know that you can cross-customize, like the ASP, the VHC, or the MHS. And that's a lot of acronyms, but I told you what they stand for a little bit ago. All right, now the last level of customization that I wanted to talk about was no customization, and that's a static saber. Okay, static sabers are what they are. They're designed just to be that way. A lot of stuff from Vader's Vault is a static saber, like here is a Tempest. All right, this pommel does remove. There are some Vader's Vault models that have the same thread size on their pommels that I can actually put their pommels on this Tempest, but most of them don't. Okay, this has a joint right there that can be unscrewed as well, but only these parts fit together in order to make this saber. I can't take something off of another's Vader's Vault and put it on there. The truly static sabers are sabers where the whole piece is just what it is. Like, for instance, this Pox Store Unicron. All right, this pommel fits in nothing but this saber. This emitter fits in nothing but this saber. In some cases, it's all just one part and nothing unscrews, and that's a little bit more complicated to install it. But that's a saber that's completely static. It is what it is, and it'll never be anything different. So in terms of customizability, we have completely static, always going to look like that. We have interchangeable parts. I can take off some parts and replace them with limited other parts. We have sleeves and shrouds. I can put other parts on to cover this up and to change the general aesthetic of the saber. Or I've got swappable chassis, where I can remove the internals and stick it into something completely different and have a completely different saber in that way. Now, one last thing I'd like to cover in this video is the importance of reviews. When you're looking to spend between $100 and $700 on a lightsaber, there's a lot to be said for making certain that you're getting what you think you're getting and you're getting the features that you think you're supposed to have. So a lot of companies out there have been around for a very long time. Places like Vader's Vault, Ultra Sabers, Saber Forge. Some companies are relatively new but very prolific, things like LGT or Bendu Armory. There's a lot of big names, and if you look online and you find a lot of different reviews about a company, chances are you're going to get what you see in those reviews. Don't just watch one or two, because some people who do reviews have an agenda, some people have specific tastes. But if you can find 3 or 4 reviews and watch 3 or 4 reviews on a specific company, even if it's not on the specific saber that you're looking for, that'll help you figure out exactly what it is that you're going to get. Now, there are some really good startups or some independent runs by independent sabersmiths, and sometimes those are going to net you some of the nicest sabers on the market. Sometimes they're going to net you something that's unexpected or not quite up to snuff. So you are taking a little bit of a risk if you're getting stuff from unknown sources. That said, if you dig around and you can find at least 1 or 2 reviews on that unknown or on that newer source, then you can at least have some idea. The best reviews are the ones where people take things apart and show you what they're like inside and give you kind of a detailed look, as opposed to just unboxing videos where people open it up and say, wow, this thing is impressive right now, but it may not work next week. So do a little bit of research, make certain that you've seen these things out in the wild, and that once you see them in person, as opposed to the glamour shots that may exist on the websites, it still looks like what you want. All right, now join me back for next time, and we're going to actually finish all this up with a rather detailed look at the 3 most important questions when considering a hilt. Hilt aesthetics, cost, and the use to which you're going to put that. Once you get to the end of that one, a lot of these others are going to help you sort of weigh your decision once you can answer those 3 final questions. All right, see you back then.